My name is Deborah Tull, and I'm here to talk about my newest book, Relational Mindfulness, a handbook for deepening our connection with ourselves, with each other, with our planet. I'm a teacher of Zen meditation and mindfulness and the founder of an organization called Mindful Living Revolution. I'm also an activist and a public speaker and sustainability educator. I wrote this book through a transition, moving from being a Zen Buddhist monk at a silent monastery for 7.5 years in the wilderness to living in the megatropolis of Los Angeles, really answering my personal inquiry for how do we meet the beautiful, dynamic, messy realm of human relationship with full presence, the inquiry for how I as a teacher could help people to bridge the teachings that they receive from sitting meditation much more fully into how they engage with all of life, how they engage with their loved ones, with strangers, with the world at large. And as I look around at the state of our world right now, I carry a great hope that we will use this opportunity for all that is unraveling, this opportunity to acknowledge the hole in the fabric of human relationship, I would say, which is spreading globally right now, as an invitation to return to our natural capacity for relational intelligence. I've experienced and witnessed incredible impact from these simple teachings. And so relational mindfulness is a set of practices and principles that help us to remember who we really are, that help us to remember our natural expression of relational intelligence, that help us to step back from the incessant story of dissatisfaction. One of the definitions of suffering in Buddhism is subtle, incessant dissatisfaction. Just the stories of the mind of separation in our heads, and acknowledging how the mind of separation disconnects us from our own experience as human beings, disconnects us from relating with one another fully, from full connection and intimacy, certainly disconnects us from the natural world, from our home here, because we're seeing through a lens of separation, through the myth of separation. So for me, it's been incredibly healing to teach these very simple and accessible tools. The principles begin with intention, simply learning to set our intention. What is my heart's intention for this interaction? Knowing that ego always has a clear intention, and that generally is to separate, to affirm a sense of separate self, me and my little bubble. So ego's intention might be about wanting to be right and have you be wrong, wanting to be seen a certain way, wanting to get attention or approval. And when we learn to set our intention instead to be present, to use the relational field to help us wake up, that's the first invaluable principle for relational intelligence. The second principle is the mindful pause. And very simply, and you can do this while you're watching this video, it's just an invitation to pause, connect with our breath, knowing the breath always lives in the present, and to check in with the internal landscape, mind, body, feelings, so that we can be aware of any tendency to move into reactivity or habit pattern or shutting down, and just stay present. The third principle is deep listening, and deep listening is really the essence of a meditation practice. Learning to listen to ourselves, learning to listen to life as it unfolds moment by moment. And in a world especially that is quite distracted by texting, social media, multitasking, it's incredibly generous to learn how to deeply listen. And this is how we access more peace, more room for peace in the field of relationship. The next principle is mindful inquiry and clear seeing. And put very simply, mindful inquiry means to inquire into our experience in the moment, not in an analytical way, but just in such a way that we can investigate. For instance, is what I'm listening to right now in my own mind truth or delusion? Am I being a passive consumer to my mind, which is a recipe for falling into habit patterns and reactivity and judgment and story? Just to question what we're believing and what lens we're perceiving with when we're engaging with each other. The fifth principle of relational mindfulness is transparency. And this is where the practice moves more from the receptive qualities of relational intelligence to the expressive, learning how to speak the truth in the moment and learning how to access the courage and also the generosity that takes. Transparency is contagious. The more we learn how to do this and how to say what needs to be said, the more it inspires others to do the same. And certainly at a moment in time when, especially in leadership, we've witnessed, I would say, quite the opposite of transparency. It is such good medicine, such needed medicine, to learn the practice of transparency, how to do it skillfully. The next principle of relational mindfulness is not taking personally. And this is such a, I would say, fun practice, considering that as human beings, we take pretty much everything personally. We take something someone said to us, we take a cloud in the sky, we take a look on someone's face personally. What does this mean about me? And this is a cause of tremendous struggle and drama and misunderstanding in the relational field. So not taking personally is just an invitation to learn how to really step back from that and question, what if this didn't mean anything about me personally? And we're learning to do all of these principles through sitting meditation. It's just a natural effect of meditating that we cultivate these capacities within us. I would say they're who we already are, and we're learning how to uncover them so we can walk in the world differently and in a more skillful and powerful way. Shared power, not power over. We're learning through relational mindfulness to dissolve some of our obsession, even if it's unconscious, with hierarchy, and move through the world in more of a shared power or we consciousness way, not I versus you. The next principle of the practice is turning towards rather than away. And for me, this is one of the most fundamental and transformative teachings when I first learned to meditate as a young person, when I was about 18. It's the simple invitation to acknowledge how often, through habit pattern, we want to turn away from that which is uncomfortable. We want to shut down or check out when we're in a moment with another person that's difficult or triggering us. And the invitation to learn how to turn towards and be with, to turn towards and just stay present with. That is a basic training in compassion. That's building our muscles for compassion within ourselves and to extend out to the world. And the next principle of the practice is taking responsibility. And I love this one. It's about, I would say, taking joyful responsibility for our stuff, for how our egos can get in the way of us operating skillfully and from the heart in the world. Taking responsibility for our triggers, the places we get caught and reactive. Sometimes we want the other person to take responsibility. We really want them to do it. But there's something that's quite joyful and empowering in acknowledging that we can be taking responsibility more often than we think. The final principle for relational mindfulness is compassionate action. And as I look around at what's happening in our world right now, I know that I want us to be aligned with compassionate action, listening deeply so that we can even access compassionate response to a time of global uncertainty, things unfolding that are much bigger than any of us individually and that are challenging for the whole. And so compassionate action arises quite organically when we're in the place of deep listening, asking ourselves what is best for all in this situation, including me, this being. It's not something we have to access outside of ourselves or analyze how to get to a compassionate response. It's just becoming more and more in touch with the kindness that's already within us, but letting that guide us more often than what sometimes guides us instead. And I would say that's the myth of separation, this sense that it's I versus you, me and my separate bubble. This paradigm of competition and power over rather than cooperation and power with. It's been really popular for humanity for quite some time and isn't working so well. Also, as I look around and both with people I work with individually, acknowledging the level of the epidemic of loneliness, of disconnect, how much people are craving deeper connection, how unsatisfying, superficial engagement actually is, and then looking at the work that we need to be doing together on behalf of the greater good. We absolutely need to be coming from a place of relational intelligence so that we can work together skillfully and navigate these challenges. It's a time that is so divisive and so reactive. And so one of my hopes is that by seeing the full impact of that reactivity as it continues, we're beginning to get a little bored of it and perhaps more willing to return to home. Relational intelligence is a part of being home. This book is written in 4 sections. The first is relationship with ourself, how to cultivate a really compassionate, centered relationship with oneself. The second part is relationship with each other. The third is our relationship with our planet. And the fourth is simply about how to take care of ourselves in this time of a lot of change, how to be more powerful agents of change. I've written this book so that people can simply read it and enjoy it and learn from it through exercises and practices as you go. And also so that groups of people might go through this book together, as organizations that I've worked with have, nonprofits, church groups, Buddhist groups. For a long time, as a meditator, I've been fascinated by a little duality, a delusion people can get stuck in, that their meditation practice is deepest when they're away on retreat, just alone within themselves, on the cushion, in solitude. And that's part of practice, but the other part is about bringing your full presence and practice into this interconnected field in which we live, and into the field of human relationship, and letting it ignite something in that field, letting it impact that field. And so the retreats that I teach, this book that I've written, the offerings I'm making right now are very much about helping people to bridge that misunderstanding and to go deeper. Relational Mindfulness came out in May of 2018 through Wisdom Publications, and so it's available through Wisdom, in bookstores, through Amazon. And you can also check out my website, deborahtull.com. Thank you.